Friends, in just a moment, we are going to begin the funeral services for Neil Donald Reisman. If you have a cell phone or a pager, I would ask for you to please take a moment to turn it off or place it in the silent mode. And officiating today's services will be Rabbi Sarah Rosenbaum-Jones from Congregation Or Shalom in Vernon Hills. Again, one last final gentle reminder to make sure your cell phones are turned off. And as we begin our service today, the rabbi will lead the family in the tradition of Kriya.
On behalf of Neil's entire family, I want to thank you all for being with us here today to remember our dear husband, father, grandfather, and a friend to everyone he encountered, Neil Reisman. This is a day we anticipated with sorrow, but this is also a day that we're here to celebrate the incredible life that Neil lived. Jewish tradition provides us ways to acknowledge and move through the grief we're experiencing. We're going to let go of the Neil that we saw in the last few weeks and re-embrace the Neil that shared with us so many gifts over the many years of his life. And Neil gave us so very many gifts. He gave us the gifts of constant laughter, joy, generosity, and authentic connection with everyone he encountered. Neil loved people, and today we are here to love him back and celebrate the impact that he had on all of our lives. So today we'll be fulfilling two primary obligations in the Jewish tradition. The first of these is kavod ha'emet, which means that we'll be honoring Neil's life with eulogy and memory. And the second obligation we're here to fulfill today is nichum avelim, which is comforting the family. We are here to support them. We're here to be their village as they travel this path of mourning. And we're going to continue our service this morning with the recitation of psalms and prayers. These will link Neil's life with a millennia-old tradition of the people of Israel and the eternity of God. One of the traditional psalms that we recite when someone passes is Psalm 23. And in Psalm 23, which you can find in your service handout, the psalmist spoke through imagery and metaphor, offering us an expansive picture of green pastures, the quiet of still waters, and a cup overflowing with the sweetness of life. The psalmist says, "My cup overflows," and surely as we read this, we reflect on how Neil's cup overflowed with the sweetness of life as he embraced every opportunity for connection and joy. We'll join together in the words of the 23rd Psalm. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. God leadeth me beside the still waters. God restoreth my soul. God leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for God's name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will feel no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of God forever. Those who knew Neil know that he was a truly unforgettable person. He lived with vigor and optimism, embracing the opportunities of each day. There is a poem called The Dash that reflects on this commitment to a life well lived. The Dash by Linda Ellis. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted first came the date of birth and spoke the following date with tears. But he said what matters most of all was the dash between the years. For that dash represents all the time that they spent life on earth, and now only those who love them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. So think about this long and hard. Are there things you'd like to change? For you never know how much time is left that can still be rearranged. If we could just slow down enough to consider what's true and real and always try to understand the way other people feel. Be less quick to anger and show appreciation more and love the people in our lives like we've never loved before. If we treat each other with respect and more often wear a smile, remembering that the special dash might only last a little while. So when your eulogy is being read with your life's actions to rehash, would you be proud of the things they say about how you spent your dash? And now we'll hear reflections from Neil's family about how he spent his dash. And our first speaker will be Neil's eldest daughter, Elise, who will come share more about her father's life.
What can I say about my dad? My dad was kind, caring, and he sure loved his family. When you think of my dad, one word comes to mind: funny. Living with my dad meant living in a house filled with laughter. When I was young, my dad did stand-up comedy at some of the local comedy clubs. He even performed at the Playboy Club. He often performed with Arsenio Hall and other comedians who went on to become famous. My dad's dream had always been to do a one-man show. In 2013, he contacted the owner of the Skokie Theater, not far from here, and his dream was about to become a reality. We called everyone we knew and told them to come. My dad was beaming when he saw his name on the marquee. The theater was packed, and my dad put on a performance of a lifetime. One of my friends recently said, at his show, she laughed so hard she cried, and she will always remember my dad as one of the funniest people she knew. Another friend tried his hand at comedy because that night, my dad became his inspiration. By the way, my dad's opening line at his show was, "I see a lot of you have come tonight dressed as empty seats." A couple of years before his show, BG videotaped my dad telling jokes and put it on YouTube. My dad constantly asked how many views it had. Sometimes we fudge the number to make him happy. You can still see it under the name he sometimes used, Neil Reese. When I was too young to see him perform, I always told my dad that I couldn't wait until I was 21 so I could attend one of his shows. Finally, the day arrived. I decided to surprise him so he wouldn't be nervous. I brought 10 college friends. We sat in the back so he wouldn't see us. I was so excited. He came on stage and began his monologue, and his first line was, "Let me tell you about sex with my wife." I didn't hear much after that because I contemplated crawling under the table. My friends thought he was hilarious, and I never surprised him again. My dad was passionate about everything he did. After he retired, he became a sample guy at Costco. He loved that job and did it for 16 years. He stood on his feet for 8 hours at a time, 4 days a week. His favorite part was that he had a new audience to tell his jokes to every day. He became friendly with many customers who would go to Costco sometimes just to see him. My dad kept very busy. In addition to passing out samples, he also volunteered at Lutheran General Hospital, where he started a program for patients to discuss their care. And he was a chief schmoozer at Bagel Country, a kosher restaurant in Skokie, where he got paid to kibitz with people. We had a lot of family traditions, including going to State Street every year, the day after Thanksgiving, to look at the holiday windows at Marshall Field's and Carson's. It was one of my favorite things to do, especially because we always went to the candy counter at Marshall Field's and later Macy's, and every year we got the same candy, malted milk balls, my dad's favorite, and gummy candy for us. And I always managed to squeeze in a visit to the clothing department. Then we would have lunch at Miller's Pub, the Walnut Room, or Heaven on 7. That tradition started when my sister and I were little and continued when we got older and included boyfriends, husbands, and our own kids. When I was little, I remember going to Poochie's Hot Dogs every Saturday for lunch because my dad loved the food there, and I loved getting the hot dog gum. There was a lot of laughter in our house, but most of all, we grew up with love. We called ourselves the Bind family, the first letter of all of our names, Barbara, Neil, Elise, and Dana. My parents were married for 66 years, and I saw on a daily basis what true love is. I will miss my dad terribly, but most of all, I will miss his jokes, some of them corny, at the dinner table during the holidays. I know right now he's got a new audience, and he's got everyone in heaven laughing.
Thank you, Elise, for those beautiful memories that you shared with us today, especially around the holiday season. We can really feel that right now. And I'll invite Dana, Neil's younger daughter, to offer some of her reflections.
So Abe Weinstein goes to the doctor because he just hasn't been feeling right. The doctor runs all the tests, looks at the charts, sighs, and finally says, "I'm sorry, I'm afraid I have some bad news." Abe straightens up and says, "Okay, doc, just tell me straight." The doctor says, "I'm so sorry to say, you have 10. Abe blinks and says, 10? 10 what? 10 months? 10 years? The doctor looks at his watch and says, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. I feel my dad would have opened with a joke, and for some reason, that one has always been my favorite, as my mom knows. And as simple as that joke is, I laughed every time he told it, and he told it very, very often. But as most of you know, my dad fought many health setbacks over the years, and he did it the only way he knew, with strength, humor, and a sense of grace that never left him. Even when his body was tired, his spirit wasn't. He was still cracking jokes, still making people smile, and still being him. When I think about my dad, I have some great memories growing up. My dad was a man of rituals, daily, weekly, annual. For years, we had family outings that always took place certain times of the year, such as apple picking in the fall or going downtown to State Street, as my sister said, and walking around, going to either Miller's Pub or Heaven on Seven, and eating a lot of candy, as we remember, at Marshall Fields. To my dad, family outings were not just plans on a calendar, they were moments that truly mattered to him. Some of my favorite memories of my dad are the everyday moments that somehow felt magical, because with him, they really were. He had these little magic tricks he kept in his dresser drawer and brought them out every so often. One trick he used to do all the time to me was when I was very little, I would sit in the kitchen, perched on a chair by the refrigerator, facing away, and he'd make fruit, specifically oranges, disappear and reappear from my ears. I remember being convinced that he was really doing this. I must have been pretty young because as I got older, I realized he was literally taking them out from the fridge that was directly behind me, and hearing the refrigerator door open and close for some reason just never gave it away. He was also very supportive of my creativity. Whenever I sat down to do arts and crafts, he wouldn't just compliment my work or tell me how talented I was. He would say, you know, you could sell this. You got to figure out a way to sell these projects. He made me feel seen and capable, like my creativity mattered and had value. Speaking of creativity, my dad passed down a lot to me, such as the love of performing and being on stage. He loved performing in front of audiences, as I do. I clearly got the performing bug from my dad. Although I am on stage in a different capacity, I know exactly how good it feels to be doing what you love and having people connect with you and enjoying your craft as he did. My dad had a lot of hobbies and interests that he loved, like playing poker with his friends every single Monday night, bowling, and even playing racquetball many years ago. He enjoyed sports, whether watching the Bears on TV or just trying to keep active where he could be amongst people. That's where he truly came alive. As George Carlin once said, who was one of his favorite comedians, laugh often, long and loud, laugh until you can barely catch your breath.
Thank you so much, Dana. I also thought about starting with a joke, but your delivery was much better than I could have ever done. And we're going to invite Cole to offer some words about his beloved grandfather.
My grandpa was a loving man. He loved his family, all the jobs he had, loved the Chicago Bears, loved volunteering. Only thing he really didn't love was ketchup on hot dogs. Growing up, I know you guys know me pretty well. My dad ended up passing away when I was younger. To say I was a bad kid would not be doing it justice. I wasn't the best, and my grandpa didn't care. He really stepped up and was a big part of my life. He taught me when I was going to college. He taught me how to grow up and be a man. He taught me, how to do sales when I completely shifted my life to do that. He taught me things you're not supposed to teach, like how to play poker. He was a big part of my life, and he stepped up in ways that you never really imagine someone has to. And he would kill me if I left it on this note, so I'm going to tell my favorite joke that he's ever told me in my life. There's two friends, and they meet on a park bench every day in New York. One of them says to the other, "Unfortunately, I'm getting a little sick. I only have a week to live." He's like, "Well, what do you think happens when you pass?" He's like, "Well, I think that in heaven, God is playing baseball. And every time someone hits a home run, that's thunder." The guy goes, "Well, that's ridiculous. I don't think that that's the case at all." He goes, "Well, in a week after I pass, let's meet on this park bench again, and we can discuss it." So obviously, the guy passes. A week later, they go to the park bench and they meet. And he's like, "Well, I have some good news and bad news. The good news is they are playing baseball." He's like, "Well, what's the bad news?" "Well, the bad news is you're pitching tomorrow." So, Grandpa, I love you. We're going to be fine down here. You just give him hell on the mound up there. Thanks.
And I'm going to invite Elise back up to read something that Cade wrote, even though he can't be here today with us in person. He is certainly with us in spirit, and Elise is going to offer words for him.
So as some of you know, Cade is in Paris finishing up his master's degree, and he had some visa complications and could not come home. So he wrote this, and he's somewhere live streaming it so he can see us, and he wanted me to read his words to my dad. Neil, or as I call him, Grandpa, was the type of person who was always there. I think in life, no matter how long or short you are part of someone's life, the biggest blessing you can do for anyone is to just be there for them. And that's exactly what my grandpa did. Every memory that I have of any important or monumental moment in my life, Grandpa was there, cheering me on. Every birthday, graduation, choir concert, temple service, dinner, he was there, smiling, cheering, and so proud of me. Grandma always told me in confidence about how he was always telling everyone and anyone he met, "Oh, my grandson just graduated from college," or, "You know, my grandson lives in Paris." He would probably even brag about me buying a new shirt because he was just always so proud of the people he loved. One of my fondest memories is of him wearing this dumb shirt that I got him in 5th grade. We made some artwork using the letters of our name, and of course, the school encouraged families to buy the artwork on a t-shirt or mug or whatever, and we gifted Grandpa a t-shirt with the artwork on it that said, "World's Greatest Grandpa." And you would think he would have worn it when I was around or put it on to impress me once in a while. But no, he wore that shirt literally all the time, up until the day he passed away. For over a decade, he wore that shirt until it was in shreds, and even then, he still refused to throw it away. And why? Well, not because my 10-year-old drawing was comparable to the Mona Lisa, but because he was so convinced that one day it was going to be worth money, and that he was going to have an original artwork from me in his possession. And that is the type of person he was. He believed so strongly in his family's dreams and ambitions, even when they didn't always believe in themselves. Just because I said I wanted to be an artist when I grew up, back when I was little, he believed that someday I would be. And if he believed so deeply in me, well, how could I not too? He was so fond of the people he loved that he would literally wear a ratty, ripped, decade-old shirt just to remind everyone around him that he believed his grandson was special and going to do amazing things in the world someday. So when I say goodbye to Grandpa, I'm not just saying goodbye to a person who was always physically there, but someone who was my biggest fan in the front row, behind the scenes, anywhere and everywhere. Someone who believed in me to my core. And although loss and grief are nothing new to my family and to me, it never gets easier saying goodbye to someone you love. And although it shatters my heart into a million pieces to say goodbye to him, my greatest wish for him and anybody is that they can pass painlessly, peacefully, and surrounded by the people they love. And that's exactly how he went. I'll deeply miss him for the rest of my life, but I have peace and comfort knowing he lived an amazing, full life and passed next to the love of his life by his side. I know he's right here now, itching for this service to be over so he can finally get up there and crack some jokes to the crowd. So I'll let him take it from here. Thank you, everyone, for coming to celebrate the life of such a wonderful man and grandfather. I'm deeply sad that I cannot physically be there to hand out hugs, but I am here in spirit and actually physically here on the live stream, sending love, kisses, and blessings to everyone. Grandpa, you will be missed, but your memory will never be forgotten.
Cade, thank you so much for sharing those beautiful words, and to your mom, Elise, for delivering them for you. And Kale, I'll invite you up to share some words about your grandfather.
In life, you get the privilege of meeting a lot of great people. But then there are people who make you feel that you were lucky enough to have met them. No matter where or how you meet them, no matter how well you know them or how long you've known them, they effortlessly bring light into your day. That's exactly the type of person my grandpa was. My grandpa simply lit up your day. Whether it be from genuine interest in whatever you had to say, or telling joke after joke, or even laughing contagiously, he selflessly made my day brighter every day I was lucky enough to spend with him. Nothing ever changed about who my grandpa was, no matter what the circumstances were or what he was struggling with. He stayed consistent in the person he was until the very end. Even after many health problems where it wasn't so easy for him to talk, it never stopped him from telling a joke, even if we've heard the joke 100 times before, because with his smile and wit, it didn't matter how funny the joke was or how many times we've heard it. It was about how radiant the love that those jokes held and how you could feel his spirit every time he had something to share. He believed in the best in everyone he met. He was optimistic about everyone and everything. He loved the people in his life like I've never seen anyone love someone before. He truly and simply brought light into everyone's world who was lucky enough to cross paths with him. So as I stand up here today with a broken heart that one of the brightest lights in my life has been put out, I also know that I am not just here to mourn him, but to celebrate him. We are here to celebrate the person my grandpa was, the person whose spirit I will carry with me for the rest of my life, the person who everyone can say they are lucky to have known, and I feel eternally lucky to have been able to call him my grandpa. Thank you.
Thank you to Elise, Dana, Cole, Kate, and Kale for sharing your memories of your beloved father and grandfather. Your reflections so beautifully capture the essence of Neil, who, like you said, lit up this world with joy, kindness, and generosity. Neil didn't walk through life. He laughed through it. He sung through it, he ate through it, and he loved through it. Neil was born on the west side of Chicago in 1937. He and his twin sister Faith made them a family of 6, younger siblings to Howard and Richard. Neil and Faith were a dynamic duo, not only sharing physical traits, but also vibrant personalities. Though Faith lives in Tennessee now, the two maintain their twin connection throughout their lives. Neil was involved in AZA, which was the boys' sector of the B'nai B'rith Youth Organization, throughout his teen and young adult years. One fateful June day, when he was just 19 years old, Neil decided to attend an AZA and BBG dance that combined the boys and girls chapters of BBYO. He spotted a beautiful young woman from across the room and asked her to dance. Although she was a little wary at first, she thought he looked a little snobby at the outset, because who wears sunglasses indoors? She thought he was very handsome and charming. Her impression of him as snobby melted away when she experienced his kind demeanor and incredible sense of humor. Neil and Barbara danced the night away and were a couple soon after that. Although with the commute from the south side to the north side, it might as well have been a long-distance relationship. Neil would drive his clunky car up on the weekends and an occasional weekday to visit Barbara and her family. Her parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody adored Neil. And sometimes they would even lend him the occasional bed on a Saturday night so he wouldn't have to drive all the way back to the south side. He was the nice Jewish boy of Barbara's dreams. And just 2 years after their first dance, in the June of 1959, they were married at the Belden Stratford. Barbara and Neil honeymooned in Miami Beach and enjoyed the relaxing days on the sand and in the waves. Their honeymoon set the stage for one of their lifelong legacies, their very unusual nicknames for each other. One day they were swimming at the beach, and Barbara's hair was kind of matted down, as your hair does on the beach, and Neil remarked that she looked like one of the Three Stooges. And that moment evolved into Barbara and Neil playfully calling each other Mo, like Mo of the Three Stooges. But this joke didn't last a day. It didn't last for the remainder of the honeymoon or a couple months. As many people in this room know, they were Mo to each other for the rest of their lives. In true Neil and Barbara fashion, no opportunity for levity could be passed up. They laughed and danced through life together for 68 joyful years. After 3.5 years of marriage, Elise was born and marked a milestone, making Neil and Barbara parents. Dana completed their family just 2 years later. Elise and Dana were blessed to be brought up in a home that exuded joy and light. Neil was the kind of dad that everybody hopes for. He didn't sweat the small stuff. He was a constant presence at their activities, and he kept everyone on their toes with his sense of humor. They were so proud when their friends came over or met their dad at their activities. He was the cool and funny dad who everyone wanted to be around. And there were no bad jokes, dad jokes in their house. And this is how it was throughout Neil's life, as you heard so beautifully from his family. He was truly a people person inside and out, connecting with everyone he met through humor and levity. His career in printing supplies wasn't just a job, it was an opportunity to interact with new people every day and share his positive outlook on life with his clients. Neil has had a successful career and enjoyed every moment of raising his daughters. But as you heard from Elise and Dana, his life really took off when he retired. He did not waste a minute, and he never wanted to sit still. He pursued every opportunity that presented itself. It's possible that some people here only really know the Neil of the last couple decades, and that's because in his retirement, he became a bit of a local celebrity. Perhaps the highlight of his life, apart from being a husband, dad, and grandpa, was when he debuted his one-man show, like Elise described, at the Skokie Theater in 2013. The theater was packed like sardines for his 9 p.m. performance, his name lit up across the marquee. The show was a huge success, and it was a lifelong dream of Neil's to perform on stage, and his family could not have been more proud of him. But really, all of the world was Neil's stage in retirement. You only needed to pass by his sample booth at Costco or watch him at Bagel Country on Sunday mornings to see how he brought people together through humor. And he brought people together in other ways, too. Elise briefly mentioned that he was a regular volunteer at Lutheran General for nearly 2 decades. And in his role as volunteer, he was able to exercise his relational skills to improve the experiences of hospitalized patients. When he heard that the hospital was getting some difficult survey results, he initiated a new care evaluation program in which he would have one-on-one conversations with patients to hear about their experiences in the hospital. His personable approach enabled people to open up and feel seen and heard, and the program was so successful that he earned Lutheran General's Volunteer of the Year award. Neil was constantly helping other people open up, and one of his hallmark qualities was being an open-minded person himself. He was a cultured person who enjoyed eating, travel, and music. He and Barbara were fortunate to travel the world in their retired years. Some of their favorite trips were to India and Israel, where they were able to open their eyes and tummies to new cultures and cuisines. And of course, their annual trip to Door County for 35 years, where they cherished their relationships with dear friends and the gorgeous beauty of Door County. Neil never passed up an opportunity for adventure, especially when it came to new restaurants. If he saw a new restaurant opening in the Tribune or on Check Please, you can bet that he and Barbara would be there the next night. No drive was too far and no restaurant too crowded for Neil's foodie sense of adventure. He and Barbara would hop in the car, turn on the radio. Neil loved rock and roll, Broadway show tunes, and just about all music, and they would hit the road. The perfect night would be dinner and a show, especially if it was Brigadoon or West Side Story. Of all of Neil and Barbara's adventures, becoming grandparents to Shelby, Chase, Cole, Kate, and Kale was the greatest. When Shelby girl arrived, Grandpa Boy's heart expanded in ways he didn't even know possible. He had been a girl dad for so long, it was a wonderful surprise to then become grandpa to 4 grandsons. Neil was a nurturing presence and a role model for his 5 grandchildren, always stepping up when they needed him and offering wisdom. Shelby remarked that he was just a joy to be around, and Cole shared with me that he was the funniest guy I ever knew. Neil Reisman was a person of remarkable character. His legacy will live on through his kind and generous spirit, the way he approached people with acceptance and love, connecting across differences, and the light and joy he brought to our world. Those who knew Neil were so lucky to have been touched by his presence. While Neil is no longer with us physically, we certainly still feel his afterglow. May Neil continue to live in our hearts and in our eyes, and not just on our minds. Helen Lowry Marshall wrote a poem called Afterglow that I'd like to share with you. I'd like the memory of me to be a happy one. I'd like to leave an afterglow of smiles when life is done. I'd like to leave an echo whispering softly down the ways of happy times and laughing times and bright and sunny days. I'd like the tears of those who grieve to dry before the sun, of happy memories that I leave when life is done. Now, as is Jewish tradition, we rise together for the words of El Maleh Rachamim, which is a prayer that asks God for comfort and peace at this time. El Maleh Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamseh Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashkina, Im Kedoshim Utehorim, Kazohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat, Nachum Daniel Shahalach Le'olamo, Bal Harachamim Yastirehu, Besater Kenafav Le'olamim, Vitzror Bitzror HaChayim Et Nishmato, Adonai hu hanachalato, v'yanuach b'shalom al mishkavo, v'namar amen. And we'll continue together in the English in your service handout. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect rest beneath the sheltering wings of thy presence among the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament unto the soul of Neil Donald Reisman, who is gone unto eternity. God of mercy, bring him under the cover of thy wings and let his soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be God's possession, and may his repose be peace. Amen. Please be seated. I invite Jeremy Seaver, the funeral director, to offer us some instructions.
Thank you, Rabbi. Friends, this concludes the services here at the chapel. The interment and burial service will continue at Shalom Memorial Park in Arlington Heights. For those of you traveling with us to the cemetery and the funeral procession, please do keep the following safety precautions in mind. Please make sure that your bright headlights and your four-way hazard flashes are on at all times. Please be sure to obtain an orange funeral safety sticker for your windshield, and we will be providing several of the cars with a magnetic orange flag to be placed on top of your car. Please travel as close as safety permits to the car in front of you in the procession, and for your own safety and security, I would suggest not speaking or texting while driving to the cemetery in the funeral procession. As we make our way through the intersections, if the car in front of you goes through the intersection, even if the light does change, please proceed with caution and feel free to use your horn liberally to try to ensure that our procession will stay together and we'll all carefully make it to the cemetery together. Following the interment, the family will be together at the Continental Restaurant for Shiva, and that's at 788 South Buffalo Grove Road in Buffalo Grove. And the family will continue Shiva on Saturday at the Reisman Wharton residence at 1924 Byman Lane in Vernon Hills from 6 until 10. Memorial contributions have been requested to either the Illinois Holocaust Museum and Education Center or to Congregation or Shalom. And all of that information regarding memorial contributions in Shiva is available in your service folder that you should have received when you came in today. If you did not receive one as you came in, we do have those for you as you leave. And for those of you joining us online, all of the information about Shiva and memorial contributions is available on our website. At this time, I would ask everyone to please rise and stand in place. For the family members who've been asked to serve as pallbearers, to please come forward to my right as we escort the family, the casket, and the rabbi from the chapel.